Hello everyone, what is going on? Raven here. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the story of Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, I did a video about where he was murdered at the end of his life in prison. This is going to be all before that, and I will add that at the end of this video as well. So, what do we know about Jeffrey Dahmer? Well, he was a well-mannered, soft-spoken, and pleasant in appearance. But did you know that he escaped arrest on multiple occasions during his murderous spree? And we're going to get into a whole bunch of details. So his first victim was an 18-year-old named Stephen Hicks. Dahmer took Hicks to his parents' house in Ohio, where he strangled and beat him with a barbell before dismembering the body. No one had a clue as to what was happening for over a decade, is what Dahmer said of what transpired for the first killing. Now, it'd be a few years before he would murder again, and he would murder in 1987. So, before he actually murdered, he had joined the army. He was stationed for a time in Germany. He was discharged due to problems with excessive drinking. So, he said the urge was always there to kill. He lacked the right circumstances. Anyway, so Dahmer briefly returned to Ohio to live with his parents while on his military discharge. Was arrested for drunk and disorderly conduct. He was fined, received a suspended jail sentence. So he went to go live with his grandmother in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, hoping to, be a good influence on him. And he was arrested for indecent exposure at the Wisconsin State Fair Park. He was convicted and fined of $50. He was arrested for masturbating in front of two boys. Dahmer told authorities he was merely urinating. Charged for disorderly conduct, sentenced to 1 year probation, and to undergo counseling. After taking Stephen Tuomi, age 24, back to a hotel room, now this is a second murder, Dahmer says he awoke the following morning to find Tuomi dead alongside him in bed. So he would later tell authorities he had only planned on drugging him and had no recollection of beating him to death with his fists. He placed the body in his own suitcase. He brought it back to his grandmother's house, where in the basement, after a week, he would dismember it and put it away. He kept the head for a little while, but basically what he did was he would use industrial detergent and bleach and try to... It's okay. I'm not going to get too gross here, okay? So, after that, this will be, I believe, the third victim. So, after poor Stephen Tuomi, alright, Dahmer brought 14-year-old James Dockstader to the basement of his grandmother's house after promising him $50 in exchange for posing for nude photos. He drugged him, he strangled him, disposed the body in similar fashion as Tuomi. Richard Guerrero met his killer outside a Milwaukee gay bar. Dahmer offered Guerrero $50 to return to his grandmother's house and spend the night with him. He drugged him with sleeping pills, strangled him. He performed horrible acts on the corpse, and then he dismembered the body within 24 hours. But hiding it was becoming increasingly difficult, and I'll tell you why. And this is because of the fact that people were beginning to smell things. Okay? So Dahmer's grandmother had become annoyed with him bringing men to the house late at night and with the foul smells emanating from the basement. So she eventually told him that he had to move out. So he secured a one-bedroom apartment. He was arrested and charged with second-degree sexual assault and enticing a child for immoral purposes after luring a 13-year-old Kyson synthesome phone back to his apartment. He drugged. He was inappropriate with the boy, but the victim escaped, taking the story to police. However, that didn't go well because we're going to get back to that one, I'm pretty sure. Now, that one, I'm pretty sure... Okay, no, that must be a different one. Let's continue on. Okay. Aspiring model Anthony Sears, 24, became his fifth victim after they met at a bar. Fearing his apartment was being watched by the police, he brought him to his grandmother's basement, drugged, strangled him. He was the first victim from whom Dom took trophies, storing and preserving his head and genitalia. which he kept in a wooden box for a time. He stored the box in his work locker. That's pretty gross. Next, he served 12 months of jail time and 5 years probation for second-degree sexual assault. He was permitted a work release in order to keep his job as a mixer at the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory, while also being required to register as a sex offender. Paroled from jail 2 months early, Dahmer rented an apartment at 924 North 25th Street in Milwaukee. Months after being released from jail, he killed Raymond Smith, a 32-year-old prostitute he had offered $50 for sex. He drugged Smith at his apartment, strangled him with bare hands, taking Polaroid pictures of the corpse in suggestive poses, dismembered the body, boiled the remains, dissolving them in a container of acid except for the skull, which he kept in a cabinet alongside Sear's skull. So as you guys can see, things are getting worse. Neighbors started complaining of a smell emanating from his apartment. He told them that his refrigerator was broken and he was waiting to get it fixed. He killed 27-year-old Edward Smith. After doing so, Dahmer attempted to retain the body by keeping it in a freezer for several months. The corpse was eventually discarded. Dahmer was telling authorities he was upset he did not get to keep any of Smith's parts due to degradation in the freezer. That's gross. Ernest Miller, 22, had his throat slashed after being promised money to join Dahmer at his apartment. Lack of sleeping pills forced Dahmer to change his method. He kept parts of Miller's body to become a cannibal. He would eat some of his victims, which, gross. Something he was doing increasingly, and he painted and displayed Miller's head in the apartment. 3 weeks later, Dahmer killed 22-year-old David Thomas. He said he came to realize during the encounter he was not attracted to Thomas, but he was still going to drug and kill him anyway. He did not keep anything of David Thomas. He picked up 17-year-old Curtis Strouder at a bus stop, offering him money in exchange for nude photos. He continued his rituals with his 10th victim, offers a cash to a stranger, drugging, strangling his victim before taking photos, dismembering, and keeping body parts for trophies and cannibalism. Following his arrest, Dahmer said eating his victims was a compulsion, a way of making me feel they were a part of me. Now, that is what he has said. Okay? Now, after that, he drugged 19-year-old Errol Lindsay, drilled a hole in his skull, intended to pour hydrochloric acid and attempt to produce what Dahmer would describe as a quote-unquote zombie-like state in the victim. He regained consciousness before Dahmer drugged him further, strangled him, and did whatever he wanted with the remaining part of the body. Gross. Next victim, 31-year-old Anthony Hughes, was dead, but still intact on the floor when he lured 14-year-old Conrad Syntha-Symphone. Okay, so here's the thing. So he did the thing he did with Conrac's, I believe, brother. Let's scroll back up here and take a look here, because I am actually reading this from a biography about him. Let me see. Scrolling. I feel like I'm past it. But I definitely remember seeing that name before. Okay. So let's see. James, no. Kicked him out. Anthony Sears. Kyson. Okay. So I think Kyson was the older brother. Okay. Now, we're going to scroll back down here to where... Okay. 14-year-old Conrad to his apartment after photographing and drugging him. Again, tried to render his victim brain dead by drilling into the skull and pouring acid into there. Leaving the drug body alongside Hughes' corpse, he left the apartment for a little while, letting him kind of do his thing. He returned in the early hours in the morning. Dahmer discovered groggy, poor young 14-year-old Conrad, sitting outside the apartment building with 3 women huddled around him. Telling the woman that Conrad was his friend, Dahmer attempted to lead the boy back to the apartment, to the dismay of the women, who informed Dahmer they had already called the police. Dahmer eventually convinced attending police that Conrad was a 19-year-old boyfriend and that they had had a quarrel after drinking too much. Amid protests from the women, the officers escorted Dahmer and Conrad back to the apartment. where Dahmer produced Polaroids he had taken early as proof of relationship. Categorizing the event as a domestic dispute, the three officers left Conrad with Dahmer in the apartment. But they had noted a strange odor, but they didn't do anything else with that. Once the cops left, Dahmer drilled into Conrad's head again, injected with more acid. This time, it was fatal. Conrad was a younger brother, the boy he had... So Conrad's older brother was the one that Dahmer had molested in 1988. He was convicted for, though according to Dahmer, he had no idea of their connection. After dismembering the bodies, he kept the skulls of both Conrad and Hughes. He then met 20-year-old Matthew Turner in Chicago, persuaded him to travel to Milwaukee for a photo shoot. Dahmer drugged, strangled, dismembered the victim, keeping the head and internal organs in plastic bags in a freezer. He chose another victim from Chicago. He promised Jeremiah Weinberger, age 20, a weekend away at his apartment in Milwaukee. He did not commit the murder until the following day after their arrival. He voiced his intention to leave. Poor Jeremiah. Days later, after agreeing to pose nude, 24-year-old Oliver Lacey accompanied Dahmer back to his apartment, where he was drugged and administered chloroform over the course of a day in an attempt to render him alive but unconscious. He strangled him. He had inappropriate relations with the corpse, storing head and heart in the freezer, and kept the skeleton in... He stored the head and the heart in a refrigerator and kept his skeleton in a freezer. Oh my gosh, this is a lot worse than I thought. 4 days after murdering Lacey, he was fired from his job. Poor Dahmer. The same day, Dahmer lured Joseph Braidholt, age 25, to the apartment, strangling him, laying his body on the bed where it remained for 2 days. He placed Braidholt's head in the fridge. 2 Milwaukee police officers were flagged down by an agitated man with handcuffs attached at one wrist. Tracy Edwards, who was 32, told the officers of a quote-unquote freak had placed handcuffs on him, and he had to spend the better part of the evening trying to escape from a nearby apartment where he was being held captive. Now, Tracy Edwards was supposed to be the next victim. Dahmer had met Edwards earlier that day, persuaded him to accompany him to his apartment. Edwards immediately noted a foul smell and stacked boxes of hydrochloric acid in the apartment. Dahmer had tried to place handcuffs on Edwards, succeeding only in fastening one wrist before he brandished a knife, pulling Edwards toward the bedroom where Dahmer said he intended to take nude photos. Continuing repeating he was Dahmer's quote-unquote friend, Edwards waited until his captor had a lapse of concentration where he punched Dahmer in the face. In the confusion, Edwards fled through the front door, eventually flagging down the cop car. Upon their arrival at the apartment, Dahmer invited the attending officers inside, admitting it was he who had placed the handcuffs on Edwards and that the keys were in the nightstand in the bedroom. Cops enter the bedroom. They notice a particularly open drawer filled with Polaroid pictures of numerous bodies in different states of dismemberment. Brandishing the images, the officer returned to the living room and reported to say to his partner, "These are for real." Dahmer attempted to escape once he saw the cop had the images, but was quickly subdued by police, who immediately called for backup. When authorities opened Dahmer's refrigerator door, they found the severed head of a black male on the bottom shelf. Authorities would discover 4 other severed heads in Dahmer's kitchen, 2 human hearts in the fridge, 7 skulls in Dahmer's bedroom, and an entire human torso in his freezer. Further investigation at the apartment would reveal preserved organs, 2 entire skeletons, severed hands, and further 3 torsos submerged in acid. Asked following his arrest if he was glad it was over, Dahmer stated he was not glad, that he liked his lifestyle and found it exciting and thrilling. When authorities asked Dahmer if it would be possible to lead a normal life if he were ever released, he responded that the best place for him was prison, because if he ever got out, he would go right back to the same behavior, including killing. He was sentenced to 16 consecutive life terms. And, as I said, he was killed by fellow prison inmate Christopher Scarver in 1994, which I did mention. Another thing I do want to mention is that, number 1, I've watched this video on Grim Life Collective YouTube channel. Great channel. They talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. And Michael there, he actually went to some of the places. Like, he went to the place where the apartment used to be. It is now completely demolished. He went to the house. He was trying to be respectful, but the house of the grandmother, who's obviously not around anymore, and someone else owns the house. Now, if you want to watch his video, go on ahead. I will link the video in the video and in the description. So you want to make sure you take a look at his video, because he basically discusses everything I did here. Okay. And I do want to say that that Dahmer also admitted that he wanted to die when he got his conviction. Okay? He said he would rather die than continue to live, because he knew that what he did was wrong, as said by the other YouTube channel. So make sure you go again and check that out. But as I said, the apartment that Dahmer did majority of these killings in the end of his reign, it is completely demolished. No one lives there anymore. That entire apartment building of its own has been demolished. There's nothing there. There's a fence around the lot. And some people say it's a good thing, and others say it is not. Now, it is a place of history, but gruesome history. So, what do you think? Are you happy with the fact that the apartment complex that he did most of this in has been demolished? Or would you want to go and look at it one day as like a place of history? Like maybe no one could have lived there again, but it could be up as, a place of a historical building. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. This story is gruesome. It is nasty. And I did not even say every single detail. I skipped over a lot of the gross stuff. Okay. Now, I'm also going to ask you this. Do you all think that the type of death he had was justified? He did not suffer in prison for very long. He was only in there for a couple months when he was killed. Do you think that that is long enough? The victims' families all say that it wasn't enough, that he's no longer suffering because he's dead. I don't know what to think. I think that since he was caught, he was behind bars, that he was caught. He couldn't do this to anyone else. That, I feel, is justice. Now, do I feel that him being dead is justice? I don't know. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comment section down below. This is one of the grosser crime videos I've done. And if we continue to do more videos like this, oh boy. Yeah, so if you want to read every single little thing, I'm going to link this link in the description. Make sure you check it out. And this one that I read was written in August of 2021, so just last year. And I will see you on the next video. If you found this video to be gross like I did, hit the like button. And if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell. It tells you every single time I upload, which is pretty much every single day. I don't know how I make all these videos, but I do. And I will see you on the next video. Don't know what tomorrow's video will be yet, but you guys will find out. I'll see you guys then. Bye!